We are going to have a look at a lying cogs exercise that I have learned from Gary Ward at Anatomy in Motion. And the exercise aims to get natural motion through your spine, and we will be looking at the pelvis, the ribcage, and the skull. And the first thing we're going to have a look at is laying down and feeling where you are placing weight in these three different cogs or different areas. So if you lay down like this with arms on the sides of your body, first of all, pay attention to where you are placing the weight in the pelvis. So do you feel more weight at the bottom of the pelvis or at the top of the pelvis? I can feel a little bit more weight towards the tailbone, so the bottom of the pelvis. And then, do you feel more weight on the right side or the left side? And I can feel a little bit more towards my right at the moment. Then pay attention to the rib cage. So do you feel more at the bottom or at the top of the rib cage? And again, do you feel more on the right side or the left side? And when you've done those two areas, work up to the skull. Do you feel more weight or more pressure at the top of the skull or at the bottom of the skull? And do you feel if there is a shift, so there is more weight on the right side or the left side? When you've paid attention to that and you have gotten a picture of where you're placing your weight, place the hands on the sides and then try to make it as even as you can. So if you had more weight on the right side, shift it a little bit towards the left so you're feeling a bit more in the middle. So there is equal amounts of weight left to right and also top to bottom. When you've done that, we are going to start the motion. So we are going to lead from the pelvis. We are going to go into an anterior pelvic tilt, which means you are lifting your lower back off the ground. And then you're going to go back and you're going to go into a posterior pelvic tilt, which is flattening the back against the floor. And then we're going to work in between these. And it should be done quite slow so that you can still pay attention to having the weight evenly spread throughout the pelvis, the rib cage, and the skull. And when I say that, I mean especially between the right and left, because of course now that we are moving, we are shifting the weight over to the bottom of the pelvis and then to the top of the pelvis. Make sure that you're not going into any range of motion that hurts, especially for the lower back. Some people feel quite a bit of pressure going into either the anterior or very far end range into posterior pelvic tilt. So pay attention to that. Now, when you've done this for some time, it will be very interesting as well to pay attention to what happens to the rib cage and the skull when you are tilting your pelvis forward, so into anterior pelvic tilt, and posterior pelvic tilt. So take a moment and have a feel of what is happening. Naturally, we want, when the pelvis get into anterior pelvic tilt, you should feel it at the bottom of the pelvis, top of the rib cage, bottom of the skull. When you go into posterior pelvic tilt, you will feel it at the top of the pelvis, the bottom of the rib cage, and at the top of the skull. And that is the natural segmentation that is happening throughout the spine in these 3 different areas. If that is not happening for you at this stage, then try to make it so that the pelvis and the skull are working all together, and they should work in the opposite direction to the rib cage. So have a try and let me know how you go.